The Global Green Growth Institute, working with developing countries to achieve poverty reduction and inclusive, sustainable economic growth.
As part of Vanuatu's commitment to meet the goals of the Paris Agreement, the Government of Vanuatu, with the assistance of the Global Green Growth Institute, the Government of New Zealand and the Government of France, is developing a long-term, low-emissions development strategy, or LEDS, with a strategic vision to 2050, to reduce emissions across all sectors in a way that supports resilient, sustainable and equitable growth for its people. The LEDS acts like a window to the future, providing insight into how Vanuatu can meet its Paris commitments with a long-term goal of net zero emissions for all of Vanuatu by 2050. Waste management is another area that needs consideration within the LEDS. Unlike the tailpipe of a smoky bus, the greenhouse gas emissions from commercial and household waste are not as obvious but far more prolific and responsible for 5% of Vanuatu's overall greenhouse gas emissions. As a remote island nation, Vanuatu relies heavily on imported products. Where does all that packaging and waste end up? A recent study of municipal waste in Port Vila and Efate shows a remarkable 62% of waste coming from food and other organic matter. This waste is biodegradable, so as it breaks down, it releases methane, which ton for ton is far more damaging to the atmosphere than CO2. Single-use plastic waste made up 20% of the total waste.
Vanuatu is an archipelago of 83 islands, 6 provinces. On Shefa, which hosts the capital city on it, we only have 1 landfill. And in this landfill, on a daily basis, there is 57 tons of waste that goes to this landfill.
You are looking at household waste, more plastics, more curtains and textile, and also cans. Organic waste, when they mix up with this waste, that one, it creates a bad smell. Those waste can be turned into another resources. In the near future, we will have problem with the landfill. That we will have the landfill full, and we will have no place to dump the waste. So we want the waste to be sorted at the source before coming into the landfill. The waste, you must separate it inside the home before coming to the landfill. Thank you.
The lack of economies of scale and the geographical remoteness makes it difficult for Vanuatu to participate in recycling programs or to invest in and maintain expensive waste recovery machinery. In rural areas, there are no facilities to deal with waste, so it is either burnt, buried, or left in place. However, community education can play a huge role to affect immediate change and get people thinking about the amount of waste that they are contributing. Starting with the 3 R's, reducing unnecessary consumption, reusing items perhaps for another purpose, and wherever possible, recycling. A simple concept, but one that needs to be embedded into everyday life for the people of Vanuatu.
One of the biggest challenges that we face is in terms of behavior and attitudes. Waste management is not taught in schools, so it's very difficult for us as adults to be changing our way of doing activities such as composting, such as segregating of waste.
One of the programs that I'm working on is to install rubbish bins for waste separations in schools. I've selected 17 schools in Port Vila area. Children can clearly convince their parents to move from putting all waste into the plastic to waste separation. City Council is going also through the communities to make awareness to get them to start separating waste.
Globally, the world is shifting away from the traditional take, make, dispose industrial model to ones which are regenerative in what's called a circular economy. The Tusker Brewery in Port Vila has set up an infrastructure for their glass bottles to be collected, washed, and reused multiple times. And one innovative local company takes glass bottles and crushes them to be used as aggregate in concrete. There has also been an uptake of biogas, with local schools making biogas for cooking. Malabo College in Port Vila feeds 1,000 students per day using biogas made from their food waste. A similar system has been installed at the main market house in Port Vila, turning food waste into energy, in which vegetable waste is fed to their biogas unit and the gas is used by the food stall vendors. Strong innovative legislation and community programs can also make enormous changes, like when the government mandated for a ban on single-use plastics.
Legislation makes a difference. In our context, when we saw no legislation in plastic bag, there was a lot of plastic going into the landfill. When we had legislation in place, we saw a big difference.
The LEDS allows us to look towards the future and start making positive change to reduce emissions across all sectors in a way that supports resilient, sustainable, and equitable growth for the people of Vanuatu.